Houston, say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, and welcome to Rambling number 2 this Friday. As promised, here's all the details that I picked up on from the Sony press conference at E3. We'll crack straight into it then. They kicked off with we didn't know what it was. Everyone was like, ooh, what's this? And it started off with this little boy sort of playing and then wandering through. You could then hear this deeper voice coming from somewhere, which I think some people thought they knew who it was, and then it was like, oh, I thought maybe people had already twigged as to what this game was. But the boy walks in, and basically Kratos just appears from the shadows in this building, just in a hut in a forest, basically, and the whole place just erupted. And so it's the new God of War game, and I think it's called God of War 4, but I didn't pick up on the. I assume it is, but I when they showed it off, I couldn't see the 4 symbol, so I thought, oh, maybe they're just calling it God of War. So it was really interesting because all of the God of War games, I never play. People are going to go, what? I haven't played the God of War games apart from I was around at my mate's one day, my mate Craig, and he had God of War. I think it was one of the remastered ones. And he was playing that, and he said, oh, yeah, have a go at this. And I had a little go at it. And I was like, yeah, it was good fun, but I never got the urge to go and buy them and play them. This game looks like it's an open world God of War game, and it is not set in, I think the God of War games are Greek mythology, aren't they? And this one has actually moved over to Nord mythology. And so it's kind of a different environment. It's going to be different enemies, different gods, all sorts of different things going on. But they do seem to have made it an open world type game where you're wandering through this environment and things hit you as they do. We didn't see enough of it to know that's fact, but the whole scene was him and the boy. He was teaching the boy how to hunt through this environment. So whether it was a much more linear experience than it looked, or whether you were actually out wandering through, because at the end of it all there is an end point to it where the boy has to try and do something with his bow, and they meet this boss, and to take the boss down, Kratos does most of it, but then he says to the boy, finish it off with your bow, but he hits Kratos by mistake in the shoulder. They finish it off anyway. Now the voice has actually changed, which we didn't find out. Well, people who were watching it who've played God of War probably noticed, but I saw a few things on it afterwards. The voice is actually now being done by the guy who was Teal'c in Stargate, on Stargate, what was it called? The one on the telly. And so he's the voice of it. For some reason, Stargate Atlantis keeps popping in my head, and it wasn't Stargate Atlantis, but it was Stargate on the TV anyway. And I always loved his voice. I've heard him in a few other things as well, and he's got a great deep voice for that sort of stuff. So I think he sounds really good at it. So I think it was a good call. I think there was a little bit of sort of groans from people that have played it before, like, why didn't you just stick with the guy you had? Sometimes they just want to move in a different direction. I think they've picked if they wanted to move, they've certainly picked someone that's very good for the job. So that was nice to see. So I'm really, really interested in that game. It certainly got my interest up where the other God of War games didn't. So that was really exciting. And then immediately after that, they went into, no release date for that, by the way. It was just like, ooh, this is coming. It's a bit of a common theme through all of this. They led on after that to something. It was like everyone sort of went, what's this? And it was a complete out of the blue from the Bend studio, a Sony studio. So it's an exclusive to the PlayStation. And it was this guy riding through. It was almost like a cutscene or him sort of looking back going, this is why I do what I do, kind of reel, if you like, with him riding on a bike with a woman behind him and all this sort of stuff. And that's the life he used to have. But now he's a bounty hunter and blah. But it had a very Last of Us sort of gameplay style vibe to it, but slightly more action orientated. And effectively what it is, it's called Days Gone, and it is watching the clip, everyone's immediate impression was this is a zombie game. Third-person shooter zombie game in an open world, which everyone was like, what? Yes, please, gimme. Shut up, take my money, throw it at the screen. And it looks awesome. It looks fantastic. You can ride your motorbike everywhere, which is that's your steed, and you can upgrade it. These are little bits I found out afterwards when they were talking to the devs. And we also found out that, in fact, it's not zombies. They're called freakers, and they are actually still living people, but they're infected with a virus. So, to some extent, it's kind of between zombies and The Last of Us, because they haven't quite turned into sort of fungus, and they're not dead. But they have turned into these freaker type creatures, and they are basically they're kind of like zombies but fast as feck. And the amount of these that come at you, it was insane. The clip they showed us, he's basically trying to hunt down this guy for somebody who wants payback or blah. And while he's hunting for him, the guy attacks him, they drop on the floor, and suddenly these things come in the ones and twos. It's like, oh shit, right, run. And then before you know it, they're up on a rooftop, and there's just shit tons of them everywhere. The other guy gets caught, and he gets eaten, basically. And he's then running across rooftops into barns, and every time he gets so far, he's turning around, he's shooting them, and there's fucking hundreds of them coming at him, and he's shooting them, and these are all in-game things. The guy's doing it in-game, and it looked amazing. Absolutely amazing. I was totally blown away by it. I was like, I cannot wait for that. So it's called Days Gone, and keep your eyes open for that. There's no release date for it yet. Apparently they've been working on it for 3 years. So I'm really, 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 really hoping that at the very latest we're going to see that autumn next year. Because I think Sony are renowned for giving their studios a lot of time, especially with a new IP, to get it right. The Last of Us was a prime example. They get so much time to get that game bob on. So this for me, because I've always said that I would have taken a open world Last of Us environment and played in that world. I would have loved it. And this is the next best thing, because it's not even like that. I mean, it's that if it plays and feels the way it looked, it's going to be awesome. Absolutely awesome. If you're traveling around this world, going on bounties, fighting these creatures, living in this world, and it didn't seem to be a case of trying to solve the problem. It was just, you've got to live in this world and you've got to try and carry out these bounties that you've got. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Days Gone, cannot wait for more of that. And I really, really hope if it comes sooner than August next year, then, well, autumn next year, superb. But shut the feck up and take me money now, because I'm having it. Along with God of War, pretty much. They then moved on to The Last Guardian, which is a massive game for a lot of people who've been waiting for it. It's a game that's been in development for about 10 years. I'm not that bothered about this game, to be quite honest with you. I got Eco and Shadows of Colossus, and on the HD. I get why they were big in their day. I do. I understand it. It's fine. But they just didn't do much for me. I was like, meh. And I'm not... This game looks beautiful enough from the clips they've shown. I think the gameplay is going to be fairly bog standard. I don't think there's going to be anything too amazing in it. And other people are dead excited for it, but I'm just not. It's just not on my radar at all. But it's out on October the 25th. Finally, there is a release date for it, for those people that are very excited about it. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe it is something that I'll see and go, actually, you know what? Fucking I'll have a bit of that. But at the moment, it's just not on my radar. But that's just it's just because of the sort of games I'm into. I just don't see it. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm a little bit worried for it because it's taken so long to make it. So I'm hoping it is the game that the people that wanted it were hoping for. I worry that it's not, because it's taken so long to make and changed hands a little bit. But anyway, it's out on October 25th, and hopefully it'll be everything these people were hoping for. It then moved on to Horizon Zero Dawn, which is the open world RPG from Guerrilla Games, who make the Killzone games, but they have been working for years and years on this new open world RPG. And it seems to be set in a post-apocalyptic, say that 3 times, world where we're almost back to being hunters and stuff, but the creatures in the world that are all wandering around like dinosaurs and stuff are actually mechanical creatures. So, and it looks brilliant. It looks fantastic. The fighting looks so much fun. Collecting and gathering materials off of the ones that you kill. It just looks absolutely amazing. And every time I've seen gameplay of it, this time they showed off an actual go off. I need to go off now and try and find this blast. So you basically starting the game by the looks of what she was doing. It's a female protagonist, which again I love. I mean, there just isn't enough of them in gaming. There's far too many generic male protagonists in games. I love seeing strong female characters come out in gaming. And yeah, there was a scene in it where she's running. You can run anywhere in this world, but she's running on a particular path for the demo's sake. And then a fight kicks off with these creatures, and you end up fighting a slightly larger one. But she took over. It was almost like a little horse type creature, and she ran up to it, and I think it was like a spear thing she shoved into it, and took control of it, jumped on it, and started riding it while she was fighting this creature. Absolutely brilliant. It was so smooth and fun. It just looked amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm really excited for that game. The only thing that slightly worried me was that it doesn't worry me. It just it was just kind of like the upgrade system, the RPG wise, the upgrade and what have you system, the little bits that we saw. I just hope they're not too simplified to the point of like a lot of the, like I love Far Cry 4 and I'm sort of playing a little bit of Far Cry Primal at the minute. And I just like the one thing that annoys me a little bit about the Far Cry games is that their upgrade systems are they're too easy and they're too quick to get about as well. I mean, you've done everything in such a short space of time. And they just don't excite you. You know, when you're playing it an RPG and you're upgrading something or you're going for something or you're trying to improve something or you're leveling up, these things should be like, oh, fuck yeah, I finally got that. Or, you know, I don't want that not in this game is my only concern. But again, we didn't see enough of it for me to judge it. It was just these tiny little things we saw and I was like, it looks quite simplistic, that. But it could just have been that tiny little element. So it'll be interesting to see how the RPG underlying things work. But as a gameplay, it looked absolutely amazing. So really looking forward to that. Again, there's no date for it yet. They then moved on to Detroit, which is another PlayStation exclusive. I mean, they have been working hard, but Sony. I mean, the amount of decent games coming out, and these are games that aren't necessarily for younger audience either. I mean, these are adult games. They really are. You know that. So I'm impressed with Sony, the way they're going about their business at the minute. So Detroit it looks like it plays a bit like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, so far as it's all about decision making and button pressing and what have you. But it's got a really interesting environment. I'm pretty sure this game is based on the robot demo that PlayStation used at the very beginning of the PlayStation 4. They did this demo with this robot's head, this face, this woman. I forget her name now. And they said it wasn't going to be a game, but the concept of it's been taken and used as a game. And the game can pan out in a gazillion different ways depending on how you react to the situation you're in. And this particular demo of it, you were a man in it. You were a male robot, and there was a hostage situation on a rooftop. There was another robot that was holding a child right at the edge, hovering over the edge with the child, going to kill themselves and the child. And there was a whole bunch of decision making to be done, and they showed you a whole bunch of different ways that this could pan out. And the very first one they showed you was you failing, and then it showed you, what if you could turn back time and do this and blah. So, but it's not about turning back time. It's just about, like, you have to think about what it is you're doing at the time, and there's a whole bunch of different results you'll get out at the end of it. So it looks really interesting, and the concept of the story about what it is to be human and what it is to be, we've seen those concepts before, but it does look really well done. So that's called Detroit, and again, we don't have a release date for that yet, but again, another one to look out for. They then went on to show off a Resident Evil 7 Biohazard VR demo. Resident Evil 7 can be played on VR as well as normal, so if you've got either of them, you'll be able to play the same game, is the way that they're punting it. The really interesting part was, because I was watching this demo and I thought, because it was all about horror is back, and it looked really dark. It looked almost like Outlast type dark, and nearly all of it was first person, apart from a little video footage thing that you looked at, and then there was some third person stuff going on. But it was all set in this sort of cabin in the middle of nowhere, or whatever it was, some house the guy woke up in, or girl. And yeah, I didn't know what to make of it. But after they'd shown it, they then said, oh, actually, no, this demo that we've given people, they've actually given people this demo to play. I think you can download it now. They said, no, that demo's not even in the game. We just wanted to push the fact that the horror is back in this game. And they've also reiterated that none of the historic main characters are the protagonists in this game either. And probably won't feature, although there will be some Resi surprises, so whatever that means. But that was said after the event. So it does look like Resident Evil have gone back to very dark roots and very scary roots, which will be really, really good if they have, for me, in my opinion. But I just hope they haven't gone too Outlast. I don't want it to become a first-person thing, which is what the demo seems to be. I want it to be a third-person. I still want it to be about collecting items, and they seem to be saying that the puzzles are back as well, which is good. So yeah, so really holding out a lot of hope for Resident Evil 7. Seems to be an awful lot of good at the moment, looking at it. They then went on to the PlayStation VR. They really punted the PlayStation VR. It's out on October the 13th, so if you're really excited for this, you can go and buy it. It is a ridiculous price, though. I think it's like $399 or something stupid. It's more expensive than the console. I'm not going to be rushing out and buying it. However, saying that, until I saw this, I wasn't overly excited about it until I saw this press conference. I was really impressed with the lineup of games. I was expecting just some indie dev type stuff, don't get me wrong, indie devs are great people, but nothing AAA, if you like. But they were showing off things like, they said on launch of the VR there'll be 50 games that are VR capable. How capable and whether or not it's the full game and all that sort of stuff, they didn't quite expand on. But they said 50 games will be available for VR. There was one called Farpoint, which was a space VR, which looked fantastic. You're sort of out there on the moon or somewhere, walking around with a gun and stuff. They then showed off Battlefront X-Wing VR, which looked absolutely brilliant, watching that, flying through space, shooting all sorts of shiz up. So there was a whole Star Wars thing going on for it, and there was also a Batman Arkham VR as well, which looked absolutely fantastic. So there was bits in there that were like, whoa, well, I didn't expect that. Frick me. So well worth checking out if you're a person that thought that the VR was going to be all about horror things and all about things that didn't interest you. I think you'll be quietly surprised when you see what sort of lineup Sony have put together. And that obviously states intent from where they want to go. My only concern with the PlayStation VR is that the console is not capable of this so-called 6 teraflops, which is what Microsoft are claiming that the devs have told them is what they need to make the VR work at the sort of level you want VR to work at. You need this 6 teraflops. I think the PlayStation 4 might be something like 4 teraflops or something. But having said all of that, Microsoft are working towards Oculus Rift, which is a whole different thing it's a whole different technology spec to the PlayStation one, which is home built. So PlayStation will know fine well what their own thing's capable of. However, I do think that's why PlayStation are looking at a slightly more uber version of the PS4 next year. And without any doubt, if I'm looking at VR, it'll be at that point in time when they've got a slightly more uber version, and that's probably going to run a lot smoother VR-wise. So there you are. So yes, well worth checking out though. If VR hasn't hit your radar, I think you probably want to start looking at the sort of games that are coming out for it. I think you'll be surprised. They went on to then go on to the Final Fantasy 15 bandwagon, and their show off was slightly better. Again, I'm not going to go into Final Fantasy too much. I from what I've seen of Final Fantasy 15, I'm slightly concerned about the battle system. From what I've seen, it looks a bit chaotic and not. But it might be one of these that works when you play it, just looks a bit odd when you're watching it. But it looks incredible. Visually, the fighting looks, the actual set pieces look great. The world looks amazing. It's out anyway. They 30th of September, and it also comes with the VR experience for the PlayStation. Now, whether that's actually the whole game in VR. I've got no idea. They didn't elaborate. So it'll be interesting to see. But I was very surprised to see Final Fantasy VR in there as well. So again, the VR's surprising me with its content. They then went on to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which seems to be, because Call of Duty used to be all about the Xbox, but for the last number of years that I can remember, it's been all over since the PlayStation 4. They seem to be punting it more there than they are anywhere else. But they showed off a massive clip of a space fight in Call of Duty Infinite. It looked absolutely stunning, absolutely fantastic. To be fair, I mean, I'm not a Call of Duty fanboy by any stretch of the imagination. I certainly don't play a long time ago I played the PvP on it, but I don't play PvP anymore, mainly because I'm rubbish at it. And I certainly don't buy a Call of Duty game to be playing PvP. I play it for the storyline and the fun of the mission. And I don't recall a Call of Duty game where I've not had a good time. But at the moment, I will only buy a Call of Duty game if I see it really, really dirt cheap. I might give it a go, play the campaign, and I always get my money's worth. I always get a good epic AAA experience, and I'm happy at the end of it that I got my money's worth. So I'd probably do the same with this. Saying that, I haven't bought the last Call of Duty game yet, or the one before that either, if I remember rightly. Well, the last one I got was Ghosts, so whatever came after that, I haven't played. So, but it looks fantastic. If you're a Call of Duty fan, then you may well be well up for that. And there seems to be an awful lot more than in Call of Duty Ghosts. You were in space, but you can only kind of float and shoot. Whereas in this, you were like grappling things, you were pulling yourself along. There were all sorts of really cool stuff. You could grapple other people and stab them. There's all sorts of really cool stuff going on. It was really cool. They then moved on to show off a quick Modern Warfare remastered. So the first Call of Duty Modern Warfare has been remastered and will be on the new gen. So if you love that, then you can watch out and look forward to that. Again, there was no... Actually, I'm saying that. I think there was a release date for those, and they're generally in November, aren't they, the Call of Duty games? October, November. All 3 Crash Bandicoot games have been remastered and will be... I'm now thinking. Did they give us a release date? If they had, I haven't jotted it down if they have, but they did. They showed it off really briefly. I thought they'd have shown more of it. To be honest, it looked a bit odd. I mean, it looked nice, but it was like, oh, is that what Crash looks like when he's not sort of pixelated and old in the old PlayStation? So I need to see more of it, because I was kind of like, oh, all right. It was nice to hear the music again, and I think it's really cool that they've done it. I think it gives something else for the kids to play. I know a lot of adults will like it as well, but it does give another game that kids can play. A lot of the new stuff they're doing is adult orientated, so it was really nice to see them do that. So that was quite cool. And then they moved on to Lego Star Wars, which there isn't much to say about. It's another Lego game. It's on the Star Wars game, and it looks fun enough. If you like Lego games, go for it. And there was this massive reveal, like they do. They've got this massive bee in their bonnet about, like, we've got Kojima in his hours, at least for one game. So the head of Sony came on and went, ladies and gentlemen, may I presented you the blah, 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 blah. And then everything went dark. And Hideo Kojima came walking down these stairs that can only remind me of something like from the Billie Jean video with Michael Jackson. Every time he stood on a thing, it lit up all the way down this thing. And then he stood at the front and said, ladies and gentlemen, let me show you my new game, blah. And then that was it. And then we got this massive clip of Norman Reedus, who, if you remember, was in the PT demo. So he's obviously gone back to him and said, look, I've moved now, I'm doing my own thing. Do you want to be a part of my new game? And to be honest, from the clip, you have absolutely no idea what this game's about. It was really weird. He was walking on a beach. He then lifted up a baby and started crying. He was shirtless. And then he panned back, and there was all these sort of, I think there were dead whales and all sorts of stuff all over the place. I don't know what the hell was going on. But by all accounts, it is an action game rather than a stealth game. I think Kojima's done with stealth. I think he did stealth at a time when there was no stealth, and that's why it was so big. So he seemed to be suggesting afterwards that it was not a stealth game. So, but it was. I think he definitely made an action game here, but a very dark one by the looks of the the feel of that clip anyway. So that was exciting to see, but we're a long way off a game. I mean, no doubt they've probably made that clip, and he's got like 3 years now to make the game, something like that. We then moved on to a little bit of a surprise, which was, although maybe others heard of it before I did, but there was I thought this was just another generic Spider-Man game, but as the clip went on, it turned out that it's actually, well, they're calling it Spider-Man PS4. So firstly, it's exclusive to PlayStation. Now, this is easy for Sony because they own the rights, I believe, to the Spider-Man franchise. So, or the rights to the comic. I don't know at what level they own it, but they own Spider-Man. So they are able to just go off and do their own thing with Spider-Man. So they've made this Spider-Man game, and I watched a bit of stuff again outside of the conference, and they were saying this character has no connection to the movies, no connection to the comic books. He is a standalone Spider-Man world and environment in New York. He's doing his own thing. He's got his own costume. He looks like Spider-Man, but he's got a white spider on his chest, and that sort of replicated around the arms and stuff. Looks really cool, and I tell you what, the action in that game looked amazing. If that's in-game footage they were showing us, even some of it looks like they've got it on the money. I mean, it just looked glorious. It felt glorious. They got the vibe of Spider-Man spot on, the way that he was doing his action moves, the way that he was pulling down enemies with his webs, doing flips as he went off buildings rather than just jumping off. I mean, it was absolutely stunning. I cannot wait to see more of that. Looks amazing. So I'm really excited for that game. It came right out of the blue for me anyway. No idea that was coming. And there you are. That was pretty much all of Sony's conference. Well, at least the bits that excited me. So there you are. I hope that's been of some help to you. If you missed any of it or had only caught little bits here and there, and maybe you've picked up on something there that you didn't catch on the day. I know that the Sony press conference was at like 2 a.m. I didn't sit up for it. I watched it the following day. So I was going to do like this and the Xbox One the day after they both happened. And then I thought, no, I'll save it to do on my Saturday vlogs. Saturday vlogs? What am I on about? On my Friday vlogs. And it will be interesting to see just how much has stuck in my head. And also it gave me time to watch the stuff outside of the conferences as well. So I was watching these, as I've said all the way through this. I said, oh yeah, I picked up on that outside of the press conference and they said a bit more about it. So it was quite good, I think, to wait, because if I'd done them straight away, I wouldn't have known those little facts, if you like. So there you are. I hope that has been helpful to you. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you again, and I shall see you all next time. You guys take it easy. Bye.